the inevitable truth is that your life won't last forever. You think about the people you love deeply, and thinking about it might actually hurt. Have you ever wondered if you missed opportunities to show more love, give more love, or demonstrate more love? There are times in our life when we are reminded that there is nothing more important than love. Because the greatest single need and desire of humanity is love. To love is the greatest power, privilege, and freedom we possess. And every thought, word, and action motivated by love matters. Love is the highest expression of what it means to be human. What I'd like to offer you is the idea to not leave love left undone. There may be things you don't accomplish, attain, or achieve in this world, but don't let shrinking back from love be one of them. If you're fortunate, you discover that love is the only thing that really matters. Love heals everything, and love is all there is. That's why I've started a love wave, an intention to demonstrate the undeniable possibilities when we look at life through the lens of love. After all, as you look back at your life, I'm sure you'll agree that life was always about that. It was all about love. This show is intended to highlight those that are committed, like I am, to bring their experiences, insights, and wisdom to advance what we believe to be true. That love is still the answer. Welcome to Love Wave Live. Hello, welcome. It's an amazing day today for many reasons. The reason that I have breath, the reason that you have breath, I'm just so grateful today. Saturday, September the 26th, 2020, is a day meant for you to know that love is still the answer. I've been saying that now for quite some time, this idea of love being the answer. The answer to what? And I would say anything that life brings your way, it's love. And I imagine this conversation with God, with Source, around anything that I would bring. And I would be interrupted in the middle of my sentence, and he would say, love's the answer. And I've known that in my life. So I have dedicated this season to make that come to life as a way of being a source of harmony, of radical acceptance, and love without condition. And it's showing up in different ways. And one of those ways is this show, Love Wave Live, a virtual stage. And like the intro video had mentioned, I want to bring those that have experienced love in a certain way that has transformed their life, has transformed and healed themselves. And I have a guest today that absolutely epitomizes and embodies just that thought. And so thank you all for joining today. And as you are in the chat, please tell us where you're watching from. And if this is a replay, also share that as well. We're finding that we're early on the West Coast. And so we do get a lot of viewers post-show, which is awesome. Also, I would encourage you all to visit the Love Wave Live YouTube channel, where you'll find post-shows. You can also find them on Spirituality Gone Wild page, as well as the Love Wave Live Facebook page as well. So without further ado, I want to introduce to you our guest today. I'm tickled to have her. We met in a 6-month mastermind coaching program. And at that time, she still does live in my hometown of San Diego. And we connected doing a certain activity. And from that point on, I was really enthralled with the way that she had embodied life and love and was very transparent about her journey. And those are the type of people that I vibe with, who aren't, they're not surface. They're okay going deep, of asking tough questions, of being able to bring out really what is the core of what you're wanting to express, to be, to look at, or even what you're hiding. So I'm honored to have her here today. And she is Ania Volovique. And she is a self-proclaimed queen of personal reinvention. It was a move across the world at the age of 10 that led her on a lifelong search for a sense of belonging. Through many years of personal development, reinvention, and looking within, she found what she was seeking. Only it came in the form of brain cancer. It's through the brain cancer experience that Ania was able to learn the lessons and truly trust that they were leading to her greatest growth and expansion. By the power of her mindset and personal practices, Anya was able to heal her body without a need for chemotherapy or radiation. It was a miracle. And Anya believes this power is available to everyone. That's why she created the rebirth method. Now, through this rebirth method, she intuitively guides her clients to reframe their mindset around worst case scenario and find the blessing in any circumstance. With deep mindset work, emotional body and body wisdom, and inner child healing, Anya's clients become empowered to get through anything with grace. And the epitome of the grace is right here. Ania Volovique. Ania, welcome to Love Wave Live virtual stage.
Thank you. So
It's so,
happy to be here.
thank you so much. Of course, I'm always jealous because you're living in my hometown, but it's just so wonderful to see you. And actually, as I was preparing for today, started to reflect on your journey over the past year. And I know that you'll be sharing on the stage today a part of that journey. But I just remember really as you were posting in the midst of what was happening almost day to day, the things that were happening in community, your own experience, what was happening, and being very vulnerable and open and raw. And it touched a lot of people. It actually opened up their understanding, possibility thinking, and reflection. So I love how you frame, or reframe these situations, and it has stuck with me. When I hear the word reframe, I think of Anya. I think of you
Hmm.
because it was so ingrained in what your message was about there. And it wasn't about a message, it was about what was happening, what source was doing through you.
Mhm.
So if I can give a mic to that and give voice to that, hell yeah, you're going to be here. So take the stage, give us your insight, wisdom, and the love that has been a part of your healing. And I'll be back here to talk. All right, everyone, here's
Beautiful.
Ania Volovique.
Thank you, Joe, and happy birthday. So imagine losing control of your body while driving. That's exactly what happened to me last year. As I left my house on the first stop sign, I lost control of my body. And instead of pressing the brake, I pressed gas. And my car flew up the street into a concrete wall and then flipped upside down. I was completely conscious, yet in complete shock. And I didn't really know what happened. I just felt my body not being able to be controlled. And as I opened my eyes, I see my phone very conveniently right in front of me. So I dial 911 and I tell the operator what happened. And she held me on the phone for about 7 minutes until the officers were able to find me. And when the officers found me, one of them cut the seatbelt from me so that way I could crawl out of the window. And upon looking at my body, I was in shock as well as they were that there was no damage whatsoever. I just had a tiny little scratch on the collarbone from the seatbelt. And the officers were in complete shock based on the condition of my car. It was completely totaled. And the owner of the house that the car went through the wall at, he came out and coincidentally, he was a doctor. So he was just in complete shock that that happened as well, literally in his front yard. So because I didn't have any damage on my body, I didn't really think twice about going to the hospital. The next day I did go and they checked me out. They took scans and x-rays and they didn't find anything. So that was the first wake-up call. But it wasn't the only one. Literally a month later, I was on Lionsgate, which is considered the most potent day of the year. I was sitting getting some work done and had so many plans for the day. And God, the universe, had other plans. I had a seizure and fell on my face, literally, right after I got a facial. So, cosmic joke, the universe has a sense of humor as well. And right afterwards, all I remember is just being in the ER and getting scans again. And I was in the hospital, the same hospital, literally just a door next door to the one that I was at a month prior. This time, they found brain tumor getting comfy in my brain. And the doctors, as they do, they start preparing us for worst case scenario. I may not be able to walk after the surgery. I will need chemo, radiation, and somebody will have to live with me to take care of me because I'm not going to be able to do anything myself. So it's a lot to absorb. And right away, like my mom, who was on the other side of the country, she was in New York, she flew down and she was ready to leave her job and really move her entire life to take care of me. And during that time, my mindset was all focused on my birthday, which was just a few weeks away. So in my natural fashion, I was just focusing on what can I control and how can I make the most out of the situation. But yes, I was listening to what the doctors were saying, but at the same time, I wasn't taking it on as my reality. And I was focusing on what will bring me joy. So I invited all of my friends to come to the hospital room and celebrate my birthday in the hospital. Like, if that's where I'm going to be, that's where I'm going to celebrate my birthday. And I had them all bring tutus. So luckily, my birthday was on a Tuesday, so we decided to do a Tutu Tuesday celebration in the hospital garden. So here we were in tutus, pizza, dancing in my wheelchair. I was celebrating life. And I wasn't attaching to what the doctors were saying, what I could or could not do. And I think this is such an important point for anybody going through anything traumatic, for you to really look at your own life and see, what do I have control over? And how can I bring joy to this environment, to this circumstance, no matter what it is? So in that point, I was focusing on what will bring me joy. And what would bring me joy was my medicine. So my medicine was spending time with the people I love, doing the things that I love. We have life is happening all around. I don't think you hear it, but that's good. So then afterwards, after the birthday celebration, I had the surgery and I wasn't able to walk. And again, the doctors were saying that I may not be able to walk. My right side was still not being mobile, and I'm still, a year later, I'm still regaining my mobility, but I'm getting there. So once the doctors were predicting all of these things and they were saying I have brain cancer, in my mind, I embraced it and I was getting ready for chemo and radiation and all of those things. But at the same time, I did not take on the identity as someone who has brain cancer. Even with the words that I chose to speak, I said that I am having a cancer experience. So I was embracing it, but I wasn't taking it on the identity. And I think that's also such an important point of, no matter what happens to you, not to take on the identity of a victim and not to take on the identity of what somebody else thinks you should or shouldn't do. So the power of words holds so much value and so much power. It's literally manifesting. You're saying a prayer every single time you say something. Manifesting works both ways. So everything that you say to yourself, you actually are praying for it and you're speaking it into existence. So if you keep on saying, I have or I am, and whatever follows it, if that's not in full alignment, then you really are attracting more of what you may not want. So really be mindful of the words that you choose, no matter what's happening in your life. So back to the story. I'm having a cancer experience and I was getting ready for everything that the doctors were predicting for me to have. And since I was gonna eventually lose my hair due to chemo and radiation, I decided to take control of that situation and to shave my head. So yes, if I'm gonna lose my hair, I'm not gonna lose it to all of these chemical procedures. I'm gonna be in control and I'm gonna create something beautiful out of this. So I decided to do a shaving the head ceremony. So I had about 20 of my closest girlfriends in my hospital room. One of them happened to be a hairstylist. So I asked her to shave my head right in front of everybody else. So, and not only was I gonna shave my head, it was gonna be a release ceremony. I felt like as women, we hold so much other people's ideas and projections and expectations in the way that we look, and the hair itself also holds so much of that. So while I was gonna shave my head, I had all of my friends write out all of the things that they're ready to release as well, whether that's in regards to how they look or how they think they should look, or anything around not being enough, not being worthy, and so on. And every single person had huge lists. So as I was shaving my head, we had India Arie in the background. And if you're familiar with her, you know her amazing lyrics. So one of them being, "I'm not my hair," where she really talks about how she's not the color of her skin, she's not her hair, she's not her past. And that really resonated for me. The other song that was really prominent was "I Am Light." So yes, I'm not the way that I look, and I'm not what happened to me, and I'm not what's happening to me currently. I am light. And if you haven't heard that song, I highly encourage you to listen to it, especially in the moments when you feel like you're questioning your existence, or you're questioning what's happening to you, and you feel like it's happening to you rather than for you. Listen to that song, like put your hand on your heart, close your eyes, and listen to it, because you are light as well. And that was such a beautiful ceremony of coming back to the truth of who I am, coming back to my soul, and coming back to why I'm here on this planet. I really saw that entire cancer experience as a gift and as a blessing, because all of a sudden I was surrounded by so much love, and I was surrounded by finally being seen and being understood and feeling like I have a mission and a purpose. So my entire life, I felt like I don't belong and I'm unlovable, and really so much of unworthiness, like this deep down level of not being enough and not being worthy. And this experience, yes, it came in a very traumatic manner, but this experience gave me what I was seeking, which is to feel like I belong and to feel like I am lovable. Not only were my close friends all around me almost on a daily basis, I also had this amazing community of strangers who showed up. They were like little angels who showed up when I requested support. So as Joe mentioned, I was posting on social media pretty frequently about my journey. I felt like social media was the needed platform for me to be able to share my personal experience and any insight that was coming through. And as I was sharing, I was also requesting support. I saw in that moment that support, requesting, like receiving support and requesting support were one of the same. Because anytime I was requesting support, I was giving somebody else an opportunity to give. So giving and receiving are one of the same. I feel like it's our human innate desire and need to feel like we have something to offer, and we want to be of help and of support and of service. So every single time I needed something, I got really good at asking for support, which prior to this experience was not my natural nature. I felt like asking for support was a sign of weakness. And when I was completely helpless and not able to do anything myself, I had no other choice than to ask for support. And any time that I did ask for support, I saw how much it was giving to other people. And what was really surprising were how many strangers came to support me. So in my local San Diego community, as I was sharing in my local Facebook groups and asking for different things, complete strangers would come in, they would show up, and then they would show up in my hospital, and they would bring me healthy food and water. One girl even came in, she did a Reiki session for me. Another lady came in, she did my eyebrows. So all of these little things that were not actually little. They felt like I was finally being seen and I'm worthy of receiving support. And the community that was being built, they got actually even tighter because they had a common mission. And that common mission was what was driving them to continue to support. Another important point that I wanted to share is that our environment is not set in stone. We always have control of what we can do in our immediate space. So even though I was in the hospital and there was hospital food and hospital environment, it wasn't necessarily one of wellness, at least not to me. So I decided to ask for support to create the environment that actually represented health and wellness. So in regards to food, I was asking my friends to bring me food. So they created this whole thread where anytime somebody would come in to visit me, they would pick something to bring to me. So at least once a day, I would have a visitor who would bring me really healthy, organic fruits, vegetables, and actually cooked meals that I would enjoy. So that was such an important factor in my healing of surrounding myself with health and wellness. I also had a diffuser with essential oils running. I had crystals. Every single time a nurse would come in, they would be in awe of the environment that I created. There would be flowers and fresh plants. It didn't look like a hospital room. I created my own little sanctuary. And it also affected the nurses as well, because they saw how my mindset and my entire mood and energy were so different from a lot of the other patients that they had there. So not only was it creating a positive environment for myself, it was also trickling down and creating a ripple effect for everybody else who came to see me, either as a visitor or a nurse or a doctor. They saw what else was possible. So throughout that entire experience, I was inspiring the hospital staff as well to see that there's another way. There's another way to healing, and how much our environment plays a huge role in all of that. I was also being really conscious of the mindset that I had. So I continued my meditation practice. Every morning and evening, I was listening to Joe Dispenza, who has healed himself from not being able to walk as well. So mindset plays such a huge role. It's not only our physical environment, it's also what are we feeding our mind? And are we allowing ourselves to really expand what's possible? Or are we getting stuck as to what the circumstances are? So no matter what you're going through, see what you can control. See how the thoughts that you feed yourself, are they positive or are they negative? And I don't really believe in positive or negative, good or bad, but rather, are you being mindful of the words that you choose to say to yourself? And are you being mindful of what you're feeding, the information that you're feeding it? Like social media can be both like a positive and a negative, or rather empowering and a disempowering way to consume information. So really check in with yourself. What type of information are you feeding your mind? Because your mind is the only thing that you can control. No matter what's happening in the world, the earthquake can be happening, a pandemic can be happening, you name it. This year has really shown us so many things that could be taken from us, and a rug could literally be pulled under our feet. And then it's up to us to understand, how do we want to move forward, and what can we create from this experience? I believe that every single experience has a purpose, and every single experience has a blessing in it. And it's up to us to identify, how do we want to move forward? Do we want to continue being a victim of our circumstances, or do we want to be empowered and learn the lessons and get the blessings and move forward in a more empowering way? And it's available to every single person. It starts off with you choosing. The choice is always yours. One of the mantras that I had in the hospital is, I choose what chooses me. So I wasn't fighting the fact that I'm having this cancer experience. I was embracing it. But at the same time, I was in complete surrender of, this is happening. So what can I do to move forward with it? So I choose what chooses me. So if this cancer experience is here, I'm choosing it. let me move forward in the most flawless, graceful way. So after that entire hospital experience, after 2 weeks after the surgery, I started walking again, even though the doctor said I may not be able to walk. So I started walking 2 weeks after the surgery. A month after the initial seizure, I got discharged from the hospital. And during that time, a lot of my friends were coming to visit me, and I still needed someone to take care of me because the right side of my body was not fully mobile at the time. So my ex-husband flew in from Europe, where he was at the time, and we remained friends for 7 years since our divorce. And he was excited, and he was also looking forward to support. So that gave him an opportunity to be of service. And I was able to be there with a friend of mine who we had like a really close relationship, obviously. So finally, when I was ready to get discharged, he supported me in getting discharged, and he got trained in how I can move forward with life in a positive and empowering way. And we ended up, so 2 weeks after getting discharged, all of my scans came back clear. So I no longer needed chemo or radiation. Even though the doctors were predicting that I will need many rounds of chemo and radiation. That's the power of a mindset. It can literally heal brain cancer. Of course, I'm not a doctor, and I'm not saying this is what can happen to you. However, I am inviting you to reframe your mindset around worst case scenario. So before, if somebody would tell me, oh, you have cancer, I probably wouldn't feel excited about it. However, through that experience, that allowed me to reframe my mindset from the worst case scenario into a blessing in disguise. And there were so many blessings that came out of that experience. One of the other blessings, so not only was I able to heal brain cancer, but one of the other blessings that came out of it was the reconnection with my ex-husband, who I said that I will never be back together with. But we ended up spending the holidays together. And 2 weeks later, he wrote me a 3-page letter sharing how being next to me and almost losing me was the needed point of him understanding that he doesn't want to lose me, and he still has feelings for me, and there's still hope. And after some hesitation, I said yes, and he ended up moving from New York to San Diego. And so he came in February, and the pandemic allowed us to continue nurturing our relationship and really putting everything to the test. Nothing puts relationship to the test than being in pandemic, right? With social isolation. So that allowed us to get even closer and to understand how love was still the answer. So not only was I able to heal brain cancer, I was also able to connect to so many beautiful people, allowing them to be of service, to be of support, and finally feel like I belong, and finally feel like what I have to say makes a difference and my own story matters. So after that entire, and of course, it reunited me with my ex-husband. So in the end, love was the thing that reconnected it all. And love is still the answer. And I'd love to hear how this feels for everybody. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. And I want to leave you off with this final thing, that no matter what you're going through, it's happening for you. Even in this moment, you don't believe it, you don't understand it, you're fighting it or you're resisting it. Whatever is happening, it's happening for you. Everything is working out for your greatest good. You may not see the whole story, but trust that every single thing will connect. All the dots will connect. And trust that your mindset is the key to healing no matter what comes up, no matter what worst case scenario happens to you. There's a blessing in it. And you can reframe your mindset. You can reframe any situation to understand that this is a gift. this is a blessing, and come back to the truth of who you are. Come back to your own inner being and remember that love is always the answer. Thank you so much.
Anya, man, I cannot get tired of that amazing story. It just brought me back to last year when you were experiencing that. It's just riveting. I took a lot of notes here, and there were a lot of affirmations in the chat around things that you were saying. One of the things early on that you said is when you got the diagnosis, you said, I embraced it and I didn't take it on the identity of it, right? And that you were experiencing it.
Mm-hmm.
What happened in your life to get to that moment where it almost instantaneously, right, presented itself, this mindset, right? What work had you done to just, really preparing you for that moment, if that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
So share a little bit about that journey where you were so strong in your belief that you got to apply it in a real life situation.
Mm-hmm. I don't think that it was like one specific thing. It was an accumulation of all the work that I've been doing. I did an emotional intelligence course back in 2015, and that was probably the first introduction to personal development and understanding that I'm not my circumstances do not define me, my past doesn't define me, and I can control and I can create my own reality. So that was the foundational piece of it all. And then afterwards, I dove even deeper into personal development. So many books, all of the books that you can read, I've read them, studied them, coached my clients on them. My meditation practice, I think, was a really foundational component of it as well. I did a Vipassana retreat early in the year, so I feel like that opened up so many things. So to answer your question, it's probably an accumulation of everything. And it was once that experience happened, I felt like this is what I've been preparing for my entire life. That's the feeling that I felt.
Right. It's cool to see the connection of all that because sometimes when people are doing deep inner work, and they're going along the way, life happens and you can see the culmination of it and looking back and going, wow,
Right.
look at all the scarlet thread through it. That brought me to a time as this because I don't think a lot of people can say, I healed myself of cancer, right? Through my belief, my mind, and my heart. Absolutely incredible. Um, I was really touched when you talked about I am not my hair. I could say the same thing.
Yeah.
uh, but this release ceremony, why was it important for you to act in that fashion to say, I'm in control of this, right? And like flip it on its head because there's a lot of fear and people losing their hair.
Mm-hmm.
And you said, you embraced it, right? So why was that
Yeah.
important for you to do?
I wanted to be in control of my life and I wanted to be in control of my body. So I think that was an important piece. And also, I saw how many women hold so much attachment to the way that they look and especially their hair. So I understood how much women identify themselves as their hair.
Huh.
And I wanted to give my friends and my community an opportunity to shed it. They didn't necessarily have to shave their head, but I felt there's so much strength in seeing someone actually going ahead and shaving their head by choice. So I think that's the piece of like doing it by choice versus being in reaction to life doing it to you.
Right. And I think that's the thing that I know people might not have, a problem wrapping their brain around it, the idea of embracing it, right? Because you said I embraced it, right? And so when I hear that, it's like, I'm not going to resist this,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because it's in the resistance, probably you would be having chemo, right?
Right.
And so it was in the idea of accepting what is, but taking, like you said, control, like you're in control of this. And
Yeah.
so that's absolutely incredible. Well, this is like a t-shirt. I always think about new t-shirts, but you said requesting support equates to receiving support, or they're two in the same. And
Mhm.
to me, that's the law of reciprocity, right? The opportunity for others to give. And there's a lot of people in our communities who have a tough time receiving.
Yeah.
So I remember when you requested, you said, here's what I want to create. I want a sanctuary in the Encinitas, Del Mar area, and da 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 da. And it was like, wow, she is not unabashedly like, talk about your mindset and a time like that where you were like boldly saying, this is what I want, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So share a little bit about that.
Well, it wasn't, I do want to share that it wasn't my natural state of being. Like prior to this experience, I didn't feel worthy enough to ask for support. And I think the underlying belief there was that I wasn't good enough. Like, why would anyone help me? And why would anyone want to support me? So there was like this level of unworthiness there.
Yeah.
And when I was helpless, really, in a lot of ways in the hospital, so many things shifted. That's why I'm saying that a worst case scenario could really be a blessing in disguise, because my view of myself shifted so much, where I felt so empowered to ask for support. Because really think about it, when you ask for support, it means that you feel like you're worthy enough to receive that support, right?
Absolutely.
So like that shifted, and then also I saw how much people were actually being affected by the request that I was making.
Hmm.
Like I had complete strangers literally come to my hospital room and bring me food, bring me like organic juice and water and all of these things that I was like, I literally just posted in the community Facebook page. These are all of the things I'm looking for, because the hospital is not a place for wellness.
That's
And
right.
complete strangers would come in and bring me like gallons of good, high quality water and
Right.
fresh organic juice and food,
Right.
because they felt like they're being on purpose as well.
Yeah. I mean, love was activated.
Yes.
There was no doubt about that. And, it activated community. I really am like feeling the idea of being open to receiving and
Hmm.
actually asking, increasing the level of asking, because it equates to, like you mentioned, your worthiness.
Yeah.
Because source isn't saying, nope, don't ask too much, right?
Hmm.
And many times I know that people in the conscious communities and those that are doing the work that we do, and maybe I'm talking about myself at one point where it's somewhat false humility, where it's like, oh no, don't do that. But really, it is this power that we step into, knowing that we are worthy. It's
Yeah,
not
and
a
it's energy. You're
yeah.
like transferring out. So the way that you're presenting yourself to the world, it doesn't just affect you, it also affects every single person that interacts with you. So if you're in your own shell, or if you're thinking that I'm not worthy of asking for support, you actually are contracting. So
Mhm.
like think about it, like if a palm is here, if a palm is closed, nothing can come in. Versus if it's open, more things can come in. And that relates to so many things. It relates to finances, it relates to relationships, to your health, wellness, anything that you desire. If you keep yourself closed, if you're not asking for support, you actually are saying, oh, I'm not available. Versus if you open up and say, yes, please.
Oh my gosh, that is incredible. You said I choose what chooses me. Expand on that, because that could be foreign to some, right? So
Mhm.
expand on what that means. I choose what chooses me.
It literally was like a download from source. Like
Mhm.
I choose what chooses me. And once I received that, I just kept on saying it. And the way that I'm understanding that is more of like whatever shows up in my life, if it's if it shows up, that means that it's for me. That
Mm,
means that it's for my greatest good.
right,
So whatever's in front of me, it's for me. If something is not in front of me, then it's not for me.
right. And
So it's
so,
really like releasing your own expectations and releasing your own ways of how you think your world should look like, and actually being in complete surrender and embracing life.
Mm. Yeah. So as these circumstances come, there's all this automatic mindset of, okay, this is happening for me. And
Mm-hmm.
it automatically it staves off the reactionary part of it and the victim mentality that creeps in. It's not about perfection. It's like, oh, this really is about consciousness and knowing that, okay, this is not going to shake me. This is really for my good. Cancer is for my good. Flip that upside down. Oh my gosh.
Yes. What if there
you know,
was nothing to fear? Like it's the whole idea of like, oh, worst case scenario. What if there was no worst case scenario? What if every single thing that's happening to you is actually the greatest blessing and gift you've ever received?
yeah. Yeah. I mean, I recall last year when that was a real deep part of your message and the idea of thanking those things that have happened. And I did a video for Thanksgiving, and it was rather, I started to thank those things that were a part of the story that kept me in victim mentality. It was
Hmm.
like, thank you, kidney failure. Thank you, divorce. Thank you, all these things that I could, take the violin out and say, "Whoa, poor me." It's like, "Oh
Hmm.
no, this was for my good. This is what birthed love in my life. This is where it brought me to this place, right? A full acceptance of what is. I could not be in this state and be an ambassador of love without those things. They weren't there to, constrain me. They were actually there to propel me. And I get to choose if I'm constrained or propelled, right? And it is in that choice at every moment. So amazing. Um, let's see. So I wrote a couple of things because there's always been a theme with you, even from the first time I met you, and trust, allowance, surrender, and letting go. Right? When is it tough for you to surrender?
Probably when I have a specific idea of how something should be.
Mm,
I have like one of my personality traits is a controller. So, like, no matter how much work we do, there's still different traits within our personality that are so innate. And then it depends on how we navigate it and how much we understand them to create whatever it is that we want. So there's still a level of releasing control that I'm struggling with, or rather, sometimes it's more of a struggle than not.
yeah, and I think that just brings to light our humanity, right? And that it's
Hmm.
not about perfection, but truly a heart to be perfected. So I really appreciate what you said. You said, I'm having a cancer experience. I'm not cancer. I'm experiencing,
Hmm.
right? So it's different from I am it. I have it. I'm experiencing it. So
Yeah.
similar to anger or doubt. I'm experiencing doubt. I'm not doubt, right? I'm experiencing, condemnation. It's not who you are. So,
Right. And
so
our words play such a huge role. Like everything that you put on after I am, you're either taking it out as an identity or not. So if you're saying I am angry, you actually are experiencing, you're going to invite more anger into your body.
right. Yeah, absolutely. All right. Beautiful. So I want to talk a little bit about rebuild. Yeah, rebirth. Excuse me.
Rebirth.
Rebirth, your
Mhm.
rebirth program. Can you share a little bit about how that came about and a little bit about your program?
Yeah, as I was healing my own body and understanding more of why I'm having what I'm having and why this experience shows up, I started really diving deeper to understand my body and to listen to all of the cues. So that's when I started like, how can I take this experience and offer it to other people so that way they don't have to suffer? Because so many people suffer. Whenever we are resisting something, that's when more suffering comes
Absolutely.
up. So I reverse engineered my own healing process. And then together with the work that I've been doing since my cancer experience with this amazing healer, I created this process. It's a 7-step process where every single step builds upon itself, where you're able to rebirth and recreate your reality. So no matter what blessing shows up in the form of the worst case scenario, you can always reframe it and you can always learn from it. Like the cancer experience allowed me to reconnect to my body like never before. It allowed me to reconnect to my ex-husband and create a beautiful new love story. So
Mm.
all of those things are all like blessings in disguise. So a lot of my clients, they come to me after divorce, or disease, or death or near death experience. And because of my own personal experience, I'm able to guide them back to themselves, because I believe that we're all whole and complete, and we all are our own teachers and healers. So I'm not coaching you, I'm not telling you what to do, I'm guiding you back to yourself. So
Mm.
this rebirth process really allows you to reconnect to your body. So that way you're listening to your body wisdom, you're healing any wounds that have been coming up that you may not even be aware of. And then you're coming back to wholeness so you can rebirth the new you.
That's awesome. Wow. And so in this 7-step process, that's a one-on-one type of situation. Is that
Yes. Mm-hmm.
correct? Right. And
Yeah,
so,
I've had group programs before, but I feel like one-on-one, there's so much more deeper work that could be done.
mm,
And every single person is different. So of course the process, like the rebirth process is a standalone process, but then it's being tweaked and manipulated in such a way to support every single individual.
yeah. What do you say to those that may have an idea of like, well, this sounds a lot like spiritual bypass, right? So it's like you're going through this tragedy and it's like you're not, you know, you're not reacting, responding, or what have you, into this natural thing around this is cancer, right? Type of thing. It's like
Mhm.
it seems just so positive thinking, and that type of thing. What do you say to folks who might have that type of?
Well,
Uh,
actually, when I was in the hospital, a lot of my friends started getting really worried and thought I was in denial and I was delusional because there's like cancer and I'm just being happy. And maybe there was a little bit of that spiritual bypassing in that moment, but that's what allowed me to get through that experience.
yeah,
And once I got discharged, that's when I started doing the deep inner work. So the deeper healing actually began after I was discharged. And for the past year, I've been doing really deep work, like literally going in there and looking at the shadows and not bypassing it, but actually being in inquiry and being in curiosity. What is this shadow? What is this wound? And why am I feeling this? And what is the lesson? So that's why the work that I do, we are going deep into every single piece. That's why I say like good and bad. I don't qualify things as good or bad because I think everything has a message and everything has a purpose. So yes, just looking at everything through rose-colored glasses and saying, "Oh, I'm happy," even though like the world is ending, right? Like whatever it may be, that's not the most healthy way to approach life.
yeah,
It's really important to look at everything, the shadows and the highlights. We're not living the highlight reel. Life is happening, and there are some sad moments.
mhm,
And whenever sadness comes up, or anger comes up, or shame, or guilt, or any of those emotions, I look at them and I'm a safe space to be able to process it and to be in inquiry and in curiosity. What are you trying to show me? What
yeah,
are you trying to teach me? So I'm not about spiritual bypassing. I'm all about our shadows are our greatest allies, and we can actually learn so much more from our shadows and from the sadness and from the anger. All of the emotions are valid, and all emotions get to be felt through fully.
that's important. Absolutely. I have a good friend, Katie, who she shared with me recently. She says, "I don't believe that things happen for a reason." And I said, "Share more." And she said, "I believe things happen, and we get to assign the meaning of what happens."
Yes. Hmm.
So you're the epitome of that. This is what
Well,
happens.
I have another quote or another saying that actually is like incomplete complementary to what she said. I believe that life is empty and meaningless.
Wait, say that again. Life is.
I believe that life is empty and meaningless.
Mm,
We are the ones who are assigning the meaning to it.
yeah. Ooh, okay, I'm writing that down. Life is empty and meaningless.
Yeah, so every single thing has absolutely no meaning until you assign the meaning to it.
Yeah.
So I'm choosing to assign the meaning that life is happening for me.
Yes.
And it works for me. That's the experience that I'm choosing to have.
Right. And it aligns with those that have miraculous stories like yourself.
Hmm.
There was a decision that was made consciously about here's how I'm going to respond to what's happening, very clear about the meaning of it, and then manifesting something that, the normal person would, when I say normal, but, most of us that are in programs and conditioning would not even consider. So your example is just outstanding. Thank you for sharing your story. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, for those of you who are watching, I encourage you to follow Anya on Facebook and Instagram, and you'll start to learn more about her program, the Rebirth program, as she does that. And she's just so solid. I remember when we were working together in the 6 month program, we were in Santa Monica at an event, and she said, "Okay, let me take some photos of you." And it was the most, it was, I've never experienced a photographer like that who would ask me questions, and as I'm answering it from my soul, she's photographing me. And she knew when I was in my head and when I was in my heart. And she would stop me in the midst of it. And she says, "No, feel into that." And so, this gift that you have, this world needs so much of. I'm just so glad that you came
Mm.
today. Thank you, Anya.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, so, before we leave, I always ask a couple questions. And
Yeah.
the first question is about being gifted a billboard. And the billboard, let's just say it's in San Diego, and you know that thousands of people are going to see this every single day. What would be on your billboard?
Choose what chooses you.
There you go. Yeah. Wow, that's awesome. Choose what chooses you. Beautiful. Okay, my second question that I ask everyone is this: if you could be remembered only by your words, what would those words be?
That's huge, huge question. Um, you are enough. You are love. Everything great that you see in other people is a reflection of who you are at the core.
So much truth in that. Mm, so much truth. Awesome. For those of you who are watching today, thank you again for coming, and support Love Wave Live by following us on Facebook as well as Instagram. I had mentioned about this. I'm launching an apparel line within a week or two, and the intention of that is a 5D message on a shirt in a 3D world. And so, my daughter had given me a book called "It's More Than a T-Shirt." And it may be a material and something that we put on our bodies, but the message on it is absolutely amazing. And a percentage of the proceeds are going to causes, organizations, and individuals who are doing the work of love. So, continue to support Love Wave Live. I appreciate it. Also, I'll continue to follow Anya. Anya, once again, thank you for coming. Those of you who are watching, I love you with everything that I am. And we'll see you in in coming weeks. Let me just share who I have coming up. So next week I have a beautiful soul, Amy Dawn, who is releasing a book on October the 3rd. So on her launch date, she's going to be here on the Love Wave Live stage. The following week, I have two gals who have a YouTube show called Two Girls and a Pete, and you'll learn more about that. Kit Volcano is going to be visiting the Love Wave Live stage, and I have Jamie Skagen, who is also going to be coming. There's just so many people lined up here, and as I continue to show up, I just want to provide this platform for those who are doing the low work. So those who are watching, thank you. Tell your friends about it. Show up, and if they can't show up at 8 a.m. Pacific time, you can watch it afterwards. Once again, everyone, have a beautiful day. Love is still the answer. I love you all. Thank you.